One of the things that excites people every NBA season is to see how a certain number of young players do in the league. Obviously, the hype is usually around these young players when they first enter the league, but some aren't able to shine in their first years for one reason or another. As such, many watch the following years to see if the potential bursts forth. This is an apt description for Zion Williamson, as his rookie season was shortened by injuries and the pandemic. His second year had its ups and downs, and now his third year will be under a bright spotlight. But how much do you know about the young giant? Allow us to show you the 9 things you didn't know about Zion Williamson. His parents were athletic too. Zion was born in Salisbury, North Carolina as the son of Latif Williamson and Sharonda Sampson. Zion's father was a defensive line committed to NC State before attending Livingstone College, where he met Zion's mother, a track star at the school. After Zion's parents divorced, his mother married former Clemson basketball player Lee Anderson, who was instrumental in developing Zion's skills on the court. Now, that kind of heritage and upbringing is one that can't simply be taught. Granted, there is little doubt that Zion had to work to become as good as he is, but having all of them around and their own athletic genes within him, in part or in whole, certainly didn't hurt. And obviously, their help really led him to be a dominant player in pretty much every division and league he's ever been in so far. So, go parents! Number 8, measuring. One look at the man, and you're going to know that Zion Williamson is most definitely a physical specimen. He's measured at 6'7", 285 pounds. Usually, that kind of weight would be a problem in the NBA. But if you've seen him play, Zion is actually quite agile. His massive size and how he carries himself is a big reason why the NBA not just wanted him, but wanted him to be a star. There was a time when big men like Dwight Howard, Shaq, Bill Russell, and more dominated as big men. They owned the courts they were on, and it was beloved. But the game has evolved since then, mainly because big men are seen as slow and not always very helpful. And the advent of the three-point shot was seen as a better option at times than having a big man in the middle. But with Zion, he doesn't just have the size, he also has skill with that size, and that's terrifying to behold. Obviously, the catch is that this means his body can be a bit fragile at times, given the force that he comes down with when he does things like dunking. But if he stays strong, he should have an impactful career. Number 7 is original position. While it's hard to look at Zion now and think he was ever short, he was indeed a bit small in life during high school, which led to a different kind of training for Zion. Mainly, he was supposed to be a point guard, and that's how his parents trained him. This was a good thing though. The extra work on ball handling, passing, and court vision proved beneficial for Williamson after a while, especially after he grew from 5'9" to 6'6" between the 8th and 10th grades. This growth spurt transformed Williamson from an above-average hard-working player into a once-in-a-generation talent that's being praised for his skills. Except for one. He couldn't dunk for a while. Crazy, right? So the 14-year-old Williamson spent his summer in the gym working hours on end to improve his jumping ability. Eventually, it all clicked for Williamson when he tried to throw himself an alley-oop off the backboard. This setup allowed him to clear his mind and finally reach the rim. Number 6, hops. Once he learned how to truly jump, Zion literally outjumped a vertical leap test at Duke when he was with the team. Proof his training that summer had worked. After adjusting the bar's height by adding weights under its base, Zion eventually topped out at a Duke record 40-inch max vertical leap. But who knows what he would have posted had the Blue Devils been properly prepared for Zion's first jump. Again, this is a guy who's 6'7", and yet he can jump higher than most guys half his size who are supposed to have large verticals. That's impressive. Most impressive. Number 5, the hype around him. So when it comes to Zion and his arrival in the NBA, it was both hyped and cautious, especially because he was going to be picked up by the New Orleans Pelicans, who aren't exactly a contender and haven't made the playoffs, even with him on the team. Yet that didn't stop the hype machine from rolling on. Which brings us to the other irony of his rookie year. Mainly that despite being the number 1 draft pick, he didn't start his rookie season until January because of an injury that he suffered. Now, usually that would hurt things, but not for Zion. When he did arrive, his impact was felt, and fans and analysts were loving his play, his intensity, and more. The only crime was that the season was put on hiatus because of the global lockdown, and we couldn't see him play more until the next season. And even that season had Zion in limited play at times. Thus, why so many are hoping this year will be his true breakout year, to show that he can go a full season and dominate without much issues. Number 4. Clemson. According to Zion's stepdad, he was close to committing to play his college basketball at Clemson. Yes, Clemson, who were closer to him in location and tried to use that to get him to their school. In the end, the Duke lure was too great for him to pass on, and they honestly had the better team to put him with, alongside other future NBA draft picks. If we're being honest, Duke and Zion in certain ways did fall short of what was projected for them. They went out in the Elite Eight of the tournament, and since Zion left, he's the latest one and done to not win the NCAA title in that 1 year. But still, that year at Duke was enough to make him the number 1 draft choice, so clearly he wasn't hurting. Number 3, football. So not only was Zion known in the basketball world, but his build also helped him to receive a football scholarship from LSU. Zion received a scholarship to play tight end. He certainly has the build for it. But he, of course, decided to take the basketball route, which we know the results of, obviously. This is another of those what-if scenarios that you have to play in your head, because another NBA player, LeBron James, also pondered football over basketball. Given his frame, he might have had a good football career, but he also would have been at risk for more injury given his size. And as we've already talked about, he's been a little injury-prone in a mostly non-contact sport, so one would have to wonder how effective he would have been in a much more intense sport like football. Number 2, there was almost a Nike scandal via his mom. Scandals in basketball seem to happen a lot more nowadays than they did before because of all the potential money going to college players to get them ready for the NBA. Zion was a part of that, in a way. Rumors surfaced that Zion had been receiving cash under the table when an attorney named Michael Avenatti accused Zion's mom of taking money for consulting services from Nike that really served as a bribe to get him to commit to Duke. The NCAA has been going through a major rash of scandals involving coaches and players taking bribes and other services as payment for their skills. So nothing is technically off the table here, and for all we know, his mom might have done it. We don't know. Though, to be honest, when people think about shoes and Zion, they think about something else instead. Number 1, the shoe incident. Duke versus North Carolina is the premier rivalry in the NCAA, and when Zion was there, the desire for it was even greater. Former President Barack Obama was there to watch it happen, in fact. But then, Zion's shoe blew up. Or more accurately, it ripped itself apart. Somehow. We all saw Zion rip through his Nike Paul George II 5s pretty smoothly in the opening minutes of the Duke-UNC game. Zion endured a knee injury as a result, leading to Nike stock plummeting by $1 billion. Nike immediately took a trip to Durham to craft a custom-made shoe for Zion and right that ship, which probably helped to smooth some things over, but the memory will be eternal. And as will the clip that's no doubt been viewed many millions of times. Many often wonder how much of an impact players really have on a brand, and this is proof that they are intricately tied to it even when they're not sponsored by it at the time. Thankfully, Zion hasn't had another shoe incident yet, but that doesn't mean it won't happen again. So what do you think of this look at Zion Williamson and what he's like off the court and his journey to the NBA so far? Do you feel like this year is going to be his best yet? Do you hope that he won't suffer another injury and live up to the big man curse? What are your expectations for him? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure you subscribe, and we'll see you next time on the channel.